Plywood cases are great for all kinds of home improvement projects, whether it's the kitchen, garage, storage room, wherever you need them. And in the last video, we made our plywood cases. What they need now are some face frames in order to dress up the edges and make them look as pretty as they can. So what I'm gonna do is use some really nice white pine that I've found. So what I did is spend some time over at the miter saw setting up some stops to create long stiles that will go flush with the inside edge of the cases and then give us a really nice look at the front. Across the front horizontally are a series of rails, and in using those rails I'm going to divide up this front piece into 5 different sections for identically sized drawers. Now I again used a stop here, and what I'm looking for on the size of the rails is that they match the size of the length of these spacers up on top and coincidentally the size of our case bottom here. Once I have those all cut to size and I got a good stack of parts here, we can start joining them, and we're going to use a Kreg pocket hole jig to do that, and I'll show you how it works. Let's get started. For our 2 side cabinets, we're going to need 2 stiles and then 6 rails to create the 5 drawer compartments here. Now to join them with pocket screws, I'm going to drill pocket holes on the back side of all of the rails so that the screws run from the rails into the stiles. Now the pieces that I'm using are 1.5 inches wide, which is twice the thickness of my plywood pieces, so that when they join together everything will be nice and tight and flush on the inside. However, with pieces that narrow, you want to make sure that you can still get 2 pocket holes in each piece. Otherwise, with just 1 hole, the parts can twist in assembly, and we really don't want that. Now, thankfully, on the pocket hole jigs from Kreg on the 720 Pro here, you can see on the right-hand side, 2 of the holes are very close together, so that when I put this, clamp this into the jig, lining up this mark here, I'm going to put those 2 holes in perfectly centered on the end. If you're working with the 520, same thing applies here. We have 2 holes on one side of the drill guide that are designed just for these narrow pieces. So we're all set to drill holes in all of the rail pieces, and then we'll get into the assembly. With all the holes drilled in the rail pieces, we're ready for assembly. And the key here is consistency, because I want to have one rail flush at the top, another one flush at the bottom, and the rest spaced evenly. So what I've done is I've cut 2 spacers that I can use that are going to be the final size of the drawer opening. And that way I can clamp 2 rails together, actually 3 here, and have them in the exact right position while I drive the screws into the pocket holes, joining everything together. I'll just move the spacers down, working along sequentially from top to bottom. And after driving a bunch of screws, this face frame will be ready to be installed on the cabinet case. With all the screws driven in the back of our face frame, we're ready to attach it to our plywood case, where it's going to provide some much needed rigidity. Now you have a couple of options. You could just glue it in place. That's going to require a lot of clamps and a lot of fiddling. Instead, what I'm going to do is use pocket screws to join the 2 together. And by doing that, I'm going to be able to work progressively around the outside of the case. You have a couple of options as you do it. For this particular case, where the whole front is going to be filled with drawers, I'm going to drill pocket screws from the inside of the case to attach the face frame. Now, if this case were going to be open and filled with just doors where you'd be able to see on the inside, you don't necessarily want to see those holes visible. So what you can do then is drill the holes from the outside of the case and cover that up with an end panel later on. So I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing that. The nice thing is that your pocket hole jigs very easily clamp in place, so you have simple access to quickly drill all of those holes. For this version, I'm going to drill some holes from the inside of the case, and what you can see is that I've made some light pencil marks showing the location of the dividers on the face frame. That way I can line up a pocket hole jig with those marks and then drill the holes so that they're going to be hidden behind the dividers on the face frame. On the outside, it's not going to matter so much. I can just clamp the jig in place, drill holes so that I can get a nice tight glue joint as we go along. All right, to attach the face frame, now that our holes in the case are drilled, I'm going to apply a bead of glue along the front edges of the plywood case. Then I can bring the face frame in. On this particular install, the inside edge of the face frame is flush with the inside edge of the case. I'm going to use a couple of clamps here just to hold things in position, and I'm going to work from the top down driving screws and then shifting the clamps down so that I can make sure that I have all the pieces in alignment. Really only need 2 clamps here, and I'll be able to get this installed in just a few minutes' time. Kreg's pocket hole joinery has come in really handy on building the cases, making the face frames, even attaching them. What we need to do now is to fill up the spaces in our cabinets, make some doors and drawers and shelves, and you'll see not only are the pocket hole jigs handy here, but there's a variety of other Kreg products that are going to help us get those drawers and doors installed and looking their best. So stay tuned for the next video.